Order.
Recording in progress.
Mute my. Is that better? Okay. This is Sequoia Union High School District Board of Trustee meeting, and I'm officially opening the meeting. I'm trying to see if there are any public comments before we go into closed session. I don't see anyone online or in the room. Anybody have anything they want to say? All righty, I am adjourning us to go to closed session.
Welcome, everybody, to our meeting. I'm going to start. I wanted to start with an acknowledgement of the horrendous tragedy our nation and the world experienced yesterday, with 21 people killed at a Texas elementary school, 19 of them young children. The flowers and the teddy bear acknowledge this travesty and tragedy. And I wanted to say, when in thinking about this, I love little children. I love little kids and preschoolers. And I think about my own children. My oldest son once, we took him to San Francisco and took him to an earthquake exhibit, and he was so frightened afterwards. And I felt so bad as a mom for taking him to that exhibit because he was so truly frightened. And my middle son, when he was 3 or 4, we took him someplace and there were clowns, and he was so frightened of clowns. And then to think that elementary school children experience the horror of murder, it is just devastating. And that was not the only tragedy since our last board meeting. There was also a racist massacre in Buffalo, and in our own neighborhood in East Palo Alto, there was also violence that frightened little children. So the teddy bear tonight will remind us of all of the children. Adolescents are also traumatized, adults are also traumatized, and anybody working in a school community was devastated yesterday, and we continue to carry that sorrow with us. So with that, I will go ahead and start the meeting. A minute to get organized. So we will start with a call to order.
Student trustee Stitt,
Here.
student trustee Osuna,
Here.
trustee Thompson,
Here.
trustee Stevenson,
Here.
trustee Sarver,
Here.
vice president Ginn,
Here.
president Dubois.
Here.
A quorum is present.
Thank you very much. Our next item is approval of the agenda. Do you have a motion to approve?
So moved.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. I have nothing to report out on closed session. Just want to do a reminder of public speaking. I think we have some people in the audience tonight. If you would like to speak on an item that is not on the agenda, you would be speaking during our public comment section. You can either fill out a card on the table over there. If you're a part of our Zoom audience, you can raise your hand and I will call on you during public comment. If you'd like to speak on any of our agenda items, you're welcome to do that. So our next item is approval of the consent agenda.
I move approval of the consent agenda.
Pardon me? Absolutely. You can pull whatever you want. What item is that?
Sorry, hold on.
It's okay.
bewildered after
7.7.
7.7. 7.7.
Okay. Thank you. So we will pull item 7.7. So kind of a motion to approve the consent agenda without item 7.7.
So moved.
Thank you.
I'll second.
The roll call?
Student trustee Stead,
Yes.
student trustee Osuna,
Yes.
trustee Thompson,
Yes.
trustee Stevenson,
Yes.
trustee Sarver,
Yes.
vice president Ginn,
Yes.
president Dubois.
Yes.
Motion carried.
I just wanted to pull this because I know that the community has been asking for, I need to move closer. Can y'all hear me? All right. I don't know, I'm a little shaken up after hello. My chair keeps moving. That's what keeps scooting back, sorry. The floors are really slippery. First of all, I'm just a little shaken up after having our opening remarks. So thank you, Trustee Dubois. So that's why I'm a little scattered and praying for folks around our country and locally. I wanted to bring this out as a position to just thank our district for doing this. A lot of our community has been asking, what are you going to do? What are you going to do around equity? We have it has been part of our goals even since before I came. So thankful to the last board to be able to be forethinkers around equity and now really putting a coaching position as part of that. And sometimes we don't go fast, we go slow to go fast. So I'm excited about this and what it means. I'm really open to see how this role is going to help the bottom line, which is our children and their success and their academic growth, but also the civic engagers that they will be after even college, so or even now. So just wanted to bring that up. I'm for this particular job description, but I just wanted to highlight that. Thank you.
Thank you for your remarks. So did you want to make a motion to approve?
I make the motion to approve.
Thank you for that.
I shall second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. So we are now on item 8, special recognitions.
Thank you. This evening's recognition, as always, is special, but it's also special because the two individuals who will be recognized tonight also represent the most valuable people and human beings that we serve in our community, our students. I appreciate the fact that Trustee Stevenson highlighted the equity position, because the equity position also is reflective of how important student voice is in our community. We have had 2 outstanding student trustees this year, and through their work and their advocacy, equity has been at the forefront. In addition to that, I am delighted to commend both Carlos and Elizabeth. I'm sorry, and Isabel. I know that's not your name. You're not Dr. Chacon, but Isabel, for your commitment. You come to the meetings, and you not only come to our meetings, but you add such content, positions. You've done your work. You actually go over the agenda. You do your research, and you challenge our thinking. You represent the voices of the students in all matters. And for that, we are grateful. Not only that, you're in the community. You hold your monthly meetings with the Superintendent Advisory Committee. There, you also challenge initiatives. You challenge the position in a good way, positions of the districts, all under the guise of, are we treating all students equitably, I don't know what's going on with me today, equally, and then also making sure that students are getting what they need from the student's perspective. And so with that, just know that after a challenging a few years in high school. You left as sophomores, you came back very strongly as seniors. Just want to say I thank you for your resilience. I thank you for modeling excellence. I also thank you for modeling the importance of standing up. And not only standing up, but standing by your convictions with research, with strength. And then also, I'm just letting you know that you are champions for creating additional and exceptional opportunities for all students within Sequoia Union High School District. I am so excited to announce that next fall, as I recognize you along with the board, would you please stand? That Trustee Stid will be attending Bryn Mawr College in Pennsylvania, and Trustee Asuna will be attending the University of Hawaii. Congratulations. We are hopeful that we will have, and we have lots of candidates, but as you pass the torch forward, that you would also send your wisdom, your commitment, and your excellence to those who will come after you. So with that, thank you so very much for your service, and we have something for you. Certificate of recognition. The Sequoia Union High School District Board of Trustees proudly recognizes Palo for your dedication and outstanding service as a student trustee during the 2021-2022 school year. May your years all be great. Certificate of recognition. The Sequoia Union High School District Board of Trustees proudly recognizes Isabel Kidd for your dedication and outstanding service as a student trustee during the 2021-2022 school year. May your year be filled with abundance. And with that, as they take the podium, we'll offer words of gratitude.
Okay, thank you so much for that. So I want to say you guys have been extraordinary, so strong. Thank you for your questions. Thank you for your advocacy. Thank you for representing students, for pushing back at times. We have learned a lot from you. What I like best, I love that hug. You know, you guys enjoyed working together. What a great team. And thank you for bringing the voices of all of our children, all of our students, not children, all of our students to our board conversations. I do have a gift for you from the board. Our protocol is the vice president picks out the gifts. So Trustee Ginn deserves, yes, he deserves the recognition. And he asked his son, who's in high school, what he would like. And so we decided on a gift card and a card from each of us. So
Thank you.
thank you so much.
First of all, I just want to thank the two student trustees. I think it was really wonderful this year to have two because one person can't represent 10,000 kids. So it's nice to have two people and your diligence around hearing the voice of students. I know when I did the town hall, you guys both were like, whatever you need will be there. And I just really love the student takeover that day. I just cracked up laughing. You were like, woo, we got something to say. And I'm like, I appreciate that, right? With respect, right? Like you guys did it with such respect and grace, but also courage to say students have a voice. I know I met with both of you all when you first came on board, and I always talk about both of you all when students start complaining to me, have you talked to your student trustee? Because I think you guys represent the voice of the students. And so I thank you, Isabel, for bringing up the consent training. I thank you, Carlos, for bringing up equity and language, and just like overall, just joking about our schools and competition. That's really what it's about. It's not all serious. It's fun too. So thank you both. Congrats on your next step.
Thank you. Anyone else? Chris?
Sure, I'll be happy to add to that. I think you're good models of what board members should be like for us. And specifically, I guess I want to compliment you on the power and the eloquence of your voices. And I think of specifics in a couple of things. A lot came up in the pandemic, but when we talked about the strong recommendation for mask and what that might mean, I think, Isabel, nobody put it better than you on a very navigating a difficult terrain and what that might mean. And I really appreciated that. Carlos, the one I'll remember from you, I think, was speaking to the summer reading list. And your comments on that were everything. I think they explained exactly what was the issue was going to be like, and particularly from a student perspective. So want to say thank you, and in particular, compliment you on your voices and the message you brought to us.
Thank you. Ellen?
I don't think I have wildly different insights here. The two of you have really been professional in your engagement with the board. You have taken the role so seriously. You have brought student voice to us, and you have done it by strongly organized outreach and engagement with students across the district. You've both done a good job of representing the local community you come from with a strong eye to diversity across the entire district. There was so much work apparent to really reaching out and engaging students from every part of the district, and to bring their voice. There are many times I can recall that you talked about feedback you've gotten from students, and that there was actual diversity of opinions expressed, where you brought the multiple opinions, and you talked about how you would summarize what you heard, but that you wanted to honor some of the disagreement that was there as well. And that's a really a great mark of integrity in the role, to be presenting all sides and really bringing it to us. You've been brave and bold in bringing things to the board and to stating them strongly. It has been of incredible value to all of us to have the privilege of working with you this year. And I look forward to just wonderful experiences ahead for both of you.
So I agree with so much about the great advocacy that you've both brought to the board, and good comments. And one thing I'll just add is that to be a good advocate, it takes a lot of background knowledge and work in advance to know how to make a good argument or what the right position is to bring. And you both obviously did it, and it's been great having you as student trustees.
And with that, so the 2 balloons are for you, one for each of you. Congratulations. And we also can't have a celebration without cake. So we are going to take a cake break for only 10 minutes. So the board members have to eat fast. So we're going to take a break and celebrate you. Thank you. I know that wasn't 10 minutes, but our student trustees were so efficient at cutting cake and distributing cake and eating cake that we're going to go ahead and continue with our agenda. So our next item is student trustee comments.
These are my last, is this good? Okay, I think we'll go with this distant. Is this working? I cannot tell. Okay, sorry. These are my last official comments as student trustee, and I'm so grateful to have been given this voice. And as Carlos and I look to passing it on to our successor, I really believe we will have a great new person standing up here in a few weeks, or people standing up, probably people standing up here in a few weeks. And I will say that obviously this has been a really painful week for our country. But arguably every week has been a painful week for this country with the rise of gun violence. It's the largest killer of young people and children, which is really horrifying, not just through mass shootings, but also suicide, which I think speaks to the crisis of mental health we're trying to solve. It really made me think of when I was in 8th grade, my sister was a senior at MA, which for many in the room, they'll remember that was in 2018, that was the year MA went on lockdown over the threat, over some threat. And I remember afterwards seeing like these videos of students in classrooms that I sit in crying, thinking they were going to die. I even have had teachers share that they had students go to the bathroom in water bottles because they were locked in the classrooms for up to 6 hours. And it's so horrifying. Like those were our students. That was my sister. Those were people that we knew. And I think it just shows how widespread this has become and how horrifying it's become. And it's sad that there's almost like a privilege to the fact that there wasn't a mass shooting that day at MA, and my sister came home safe and others did too. And that's not the case for everyone. I think I just want to say that, for anyone feeling this week, they should ask for help and talk to someone and reach out to a mental health counselor. This is horrifying. And I think we're all feeling this, but I also think we really need to start doing more. And we need to reach out to our senators and beg them to do something. And we need to reach out, to Dianne Feinstein and Padilla and say that this isn't okay. Because Carlos and I will be graduating in a week, and so many others aren't who should be. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, well, what I have appreciated this year is how much more restrained Isabel is than I am. Because Lord knows I've gone off the rails during some of these. But if you'll give me a second here to pull this up. Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Williams, and thank you, Board of Trustees, for your recognition tonight. While I would love to be in a more jovial mood for several reasons, with graduation around the corner and the new horizons ahead for the class of 2022, I can't help but feel weighed down by the thought that 19 elementary school students and a teacher, more than one teacher in Texas, and the 10 grandparents in Buffalo that will never be able to reach and celebrate the milestones that are just ahead of Isabel and me. I originally intended to share positive news tonight, how prom was a success, how Woodside students came together, wore green, and rallied to support a woman's rights to choose. But I can't help but think, how can I do that, knowing that innocent children won't ever get to take their prom photos, and those grandparents and community members in Buffalo won't ever get to show off their grandchildren to their friends or post them on Facebook or brag about their accomplishments. I know nothing I say now will bring back those beautiful lost souls, but hopefully what I say now can inspire those with the means to act. Time and time again, this issue continues to be swept under the rug. It is disgusting that children are dead in Texas and over 290 children nationally since 2013, and no real action has been taken to curb the carnage. I urge this board to pass a resolution condemning hatred, bigotry, and gun violence, and all those parents and adults and those able to in this room to act, to vote in the upcoming midterms, and to make your voices heard by our representatives. My 3-year-old and 14-year-old sisters are here tonight. My family's here to witness a special recognition. I urge you to act not for yourselves, but for your children, for your nieces and nephews, grandchildren, for the children in your lives, for my sisters. No parent or guardian should ever have the thought of their child getting killed at school cross their mind. No student should ever have to scope out the best escape route from their classroom should a shooter come on campus. Bullets, AR-15s, and Kevlar do not belong with blackboards, algebra, and crayons. Pistols do not belong with pencils, and SWAT teams do not belong anywhere near schools. The students, teachers, and community of our area look to this school board for guidance. Let us not miss this chance to show them and the nation what Sequoia Union High School District stands for and what kind of example we wish to set for our counterparts nationwide. I'll close with this. Recently in my AP English class, we read Hamlet. In it, Marcellus famously states, "Something is rotten in the state of Denmark." Today, I can shamefully say that something is rotten in the state of Texas. Something's rotten in the state of New York, in the state of California, and in these United States. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your very eloquent and moving remarks. We're now on item 10 of our agenda, comments from the Sequoia District Teachers Association.
Well, it's entirely unfair to make me speak after that while I'm still crying. But it segues well into my comments, I believe. Our hearts are heavy today as teachers struggle with the events in Uvalde. They struggle as parents of young children, as teachers and protectors of our students, and as members of a community. Some teachers came to school today looking at their campuses with a renewed sense of fear about the vulnerabilities of our and all schools. Others came with a renewed commitment to ensuring that our students feel recognized, appreciated, seen, and cared for, in the hopes the community can prevent violence. Our other teachers came to school simply because it was the next step and there's nothing else we can do but take that next step. This is when it's hard to be an American. This is when it's hard to be a teacher. But when my son asked me what we do to stop it from happening in our school and how we do that, I had to tell him we care about everyone. We work together, and that's the best we can do. It's up to other people beyond us to change the rules and change the laws. We just have to work to make sure everybody knows we care. Beyond that, and as part of that, I would like to thank Trustee Stevenson for speaking to the Equity and Diversity Inclusion Coach position. It's one that SDTA is excited about and looking forward to working with. I'd also like to note that there were 2 other job descriptions that were approved. And while SDTA doesn't have any objections to those positions specifically, I would be remiss if I didn't remind the board of our concerns about the steady increase in administrative positions and encourage the board to reflect on the positions that have been created, which ones are filled, and which may not need to be. I'm encouraged that the superintendent has been conducting a review of how the district office functions now and is committed to ensuring that it will continue to be fine-tuned to ensure efficiency and the best service to our staff and ultimately to our students and our community. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Edith. We appreciate your comments. Next are comments from the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees. Is there anybody here or on the Zoom audience who would like to speak? Oh, great.
That's
Thank
okay.
you.
It's great because I'll apologize on ASME's behalf for our recent absences from these board meetings. We appreciate your patience with us while we work out the kinks in our chapter cabinet. With that, we haven't spoken since our negotiations wrapped up. But we would like to thank the board and the district for a fantastic negotiations this year. With the new business agent and a new cabinet on the union side and an interim HR person on the district side, the things could have gone astray, but they didn't. It was a very productive negotiations year. We're very thankful, we're very appreciative of that, and we look forward to big things in the future. With that, we also, at the tail end of our negotiations, we came up with a handful of committees that would further the discussions on things that were brought up during negotiations. And those are going to be starting in June and July with a standing Monday meeting between the district and the union. And we're very excited for that as well. We'll be getting the Labor Management Committee up and running, a couple other committees that will be taking off also. Working with Todd has been great, and we're really thankful for his insight and his acceptance into the group. Things definitely were contentious in the past, and we're looking forward to brightening up that contentiousness and working together to create a better environment for everybody. So thank you, guys.
Thank you so much. The board really likes hearing from AXB, so thank you. Great. We're glad you're here, and we're glad you're here for a meeting with cake. So now we are on item 11. It's time for public comment. And a reminder, this is for things that are not on the agenda. So I do have some public speaker cards here. First speaker is Sophia. I'm going to say your last name wrong. Is it Bay? No, sorry.
Hi everyone, it is an honor to be able to speak in front of you all today. My name is Sophia Bai, part of the leadership team with Katinka, Sarah, and Brandon, who couldn't come today. In just 6 months, we've established a district-wide sustainability committee with representation from stakeholders across the district, including students, teachers, administrators, district members, and board members, to set up a structure that drives sustainability projects forward. We ask the board to honor the time of the certified faculty and staff who have volunteered their time with us to represent their sites and help ensure the continuity of this completely student-led committee by creating a stipend model. The San Mateo Union High School District has a model like this that we could reference to better institutionalize this. They have a $8,000 a year stipend to help run the committee, with a $2,000 a year for classified staff representing each site. The success of this committee is largely due to the formation of subcommittees who efficiently divide up the work. Each subcommittee works with a central focus on a topic that members pick. This year, we have zero waste, environmental literacy, and food systems. We would like to share the progress our committees have made in the past 6 months, or in the past couple months. Firstly, the waste subcommittee has coordinated site walks of the waste systems in all non-charter high schools in the SUHSD district to gather information and recommendations for improving waste diversion and sorting in partnership with the county's Office of Education. Some of our findings include a high degree of waste contamination across bins, too many underutilized bins, with a total of 54% of all waste going straight to landfills across all campuses, which is below the target goal of a minimum of 25% landfill. We also found that various campuses have started green waste initiatives, such as composting bins, gardens, and water bottle filling stations. So that concludes the work of the waste subcommittee in these past 6 months. And Ms. Carrie Dubois, I ask if Bellamy Kramer could speak on Zoom for the next part. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, Sarah Typrin. Oh, okay.
Bellamy is on Zoom.
Oh, okay. Bellamy Kramer.
Hello, yes. I'm Bellamy Kramer, and I'm here with the Sequoia Union High School District Sustainability Committee, and I'm here to talk about the work of the Environmental Literacy Subcommittee. So another one of the 3 committee projects was focused on environmental literacy. And during Earth Week, We sent out a student survey through Canvas announcements and a separate faculty survey through the all staff email list. Our goal with these surveys was 1, to assess the status of environmental literacy in the district, and 2, to identify the perspectives from students and faculty, and in the process, amplify student voices. The student survey now has 837 responses, and the faculty survey has 152. We've also had participation from all represented school sites in the district, including Tide Academy, Woodside, MA, Sequoia, EPA Academy, Carlmont, and Redwood. Here are some of our key findings from the survey. First of all, a majority of students learn about environmental/climate change related topics either 1 to 2 times a year or not at all. Also, a majority of students agree that more environmental related lessons should be taught at school. On a scale from least important to very important, over 50% of student participants shared that they felt environmental literacy was very important, while staff predicted that less than 25 students would say this. In short, staff perception of student priorities does not match reality. We have prepared an assessment document that goes into further depth on the data and refers to resources for further steps. We encourage the district board to read and discuss this document as a group. And I will put the link for this document in the chat. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Sarah?
So to carry on talking about the subcommittees, next we have the Food Systems Subcommittee, which was focused on implementing food share carts in cafeterias. Food share carts collect students' unwanted and untouched food, thereby avoiding food waste and helping assess food preferences. The subcommittee's work on this project is in the process of getting approval from each school site. Just this week, food share carts were approved at Carlmont, and implementation there starts next school year. So as you can see, the committee has already made significant strides in food, waste, and environmental literacy. Therefore, we ask the board to help champion a sustainability committee webpage on the district website dedicated towards highlighting this progress. A webpage could be a good way to showcase our work across the district and share our efforts more broadly. We also want to remind you that in the past, the board has passed resolutions that align with committee efforts. For instance, Board Policy 6142.5 states that students in the district must be educated about environmental topics, including how to live an ecologically responsible life. According to the survey results, there is a lot of room for improvement in this area. One of the things you can start doing now is to have the communications team send the environmental literacy assessment to all district stakeholders, including subject area councils, principal councils, and other groups to discuss it. The assessment not only summarizes the survey results, but also gives recommendations on how to start systemizing environmental literacy. Another board policy that connects to the Waste Systems Subcommittee resolves to reduce the district's waste footprint through reducing consumption, recycling materials, and practicing environmentally preferable procurement, and working with local waste partners. One of the ways the districts can make way on this resolution is to work with the county's Office of Education for site and district level recommendations and discussing the waste baseline assessments recommendations, which include adopting district-wide waste sorting standards, such as proper labels and custodial training. In short, we believe that a partnership with the Sustainability Committee will help the district actualize these past board policies. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, Katrinka Linneman.
Alrighty, so I'd just like to follow up and lastly say, one way to follow through with all these policies that have been passed is giving us support to apply for the Green Ribbons Award program. So as some of you may already know, this is a federal awards program that evaluates all aspects of school operations through 3 pillars: reducing environmental impact and costs, improving the health and wellness of students, and environmental literacy education. So by doing this application, we would be putting time into thinking about which areas do we really need to improve on with sustainability and which ones would make the most impact. And we need your support to carry this out because it requires a comprehensive overview of all district operations, including energy bills and other sorts of aspects that only district members have access to. Other districts in our area, such as San Mateo Union High School District and Ravenswood, have applied and they have been recognized as bronze tier. San Carlos School District, which is not a high school district, but they are K through 8, they have achieved gold tier recognition. And Nueva School has gone so far as to achieve federal recognition through this program. So Redwood High School, I believe, is also currently working to apply as a school for this program, but it's critical that we also apply as a district because it provides an overall evaluation of how our overall district is doing. And I'm not gonna lie, it's not an easy nor quick project, but San Mateo County Office of Education has an existing framework for support for this application and has helped other districts in the past, doing about 80% of the work that goes into the application, with district-side personnel doing 20%. And data gathered from the environmental literacy survey and the waste baseline assessments can be directly used in this application. Therefore, we want to take advantage of the support from the county and existing sustainability momentum to apply for Green Ribbon as a district. So in essence, the Sustainability Committee is asking to see more support from the district to better formalize our work, follow through with existing environmental policies that have been passed, and invest time in several crucial opportunities to set a good foundation for future work. I'd like to also thank Carrie Dubois and Alan Sarver for making the time every Tuesday month to come to meetings and provide an invaluable district perspective for our projects. And we'd also like to work more closely with all of district decision makers, because with your support, we can more smoothly make the transition away from unsustainable operations to clean energy and a community that believes in protecting and preserving the planet we live on. Thank you for your time, and I look forward to hearing what you have to say and hope you all have a good evening.
Thank you so much. The board appreciates our students taking time out from their very busy schedules to speak at our last board meeting and again at this board meeting. So we thank you for your time and we thank you for your leadership. Moving on, we are now
To the chair, we have one more hand up
Oh, whoa.
on Zoom.
I knew that. I knew that. Thank you. Sorry about that. Abigail Corman, your hand is up.
Thank you. I'm coming in late to today's meeting after participating with 46 other staff members in the SUHSD multiracial dialogue about belonging, led by our Affinity Spaces fellows. It was an inspiring space to be in. Almost 50 staff members contributed an hour and a half of unpaid time at 5 p.m. the last week of school to work toward shifting the culture in SUHSD, so that BIPOC students, families, staff, and teachers feel a sense of belonging and thrive. I heard the commitment, passion, and concern of many willingly wanting to work together to make change. I hope the board and the district continues to develop, grow, and elevate conversations and policies around equity, and knows this is something staff on the ground strongly believe in and want to be a meaningful part of. I commend the district on creating these affinity spaces, and I hope the district can continue working to find new ways to incorporate the experience, knowledge, recommendations, and feedback of those on the ground into changing policies and ultimately changing the spaces in our schools. Also, as this is the last board meeting of the school year, I'd like to take the opportunity to publicly thank the student trustees for their authenticity and their time this year. They've been wonderful and added so much value. And I'd also like to thank the board trustees for their commitment and probably often thankless work for our community. We appreciate all that you do. Thank you.
Thank you, Abby. And the board also appreciates hearing from teachers. So thank you for your remarks. Okay, now moving on With our agenda, we're on item 14, discussion items. Discussion of facilities master plan.
Yes, good evening. Tonight, we have invited CAW Architects to provide us an update on the ongoing development of our district-wide facilities master plan, to talk about the process and next steps as we approach examining a bond for the November ballot. So Brent McCure is here with us and he will be presenting.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Brent McClure. I'm a principal with CAW Architects. As Crystal was mentioning, we've been working with the district to lead the district-wide facilities master planning process. And we're here today to kind of give an update on where we stand and are with the process. So what I wanted to cover here was just an overview of how we've structured it and update you on our preliminary site investigations, our community engagement, and then some of the emerging planning goals that are starting to come out of this process, which is really exciting, and then talk about next steps. A little bit about us. We're a 30-person firm located in Palo Alto, so we're really, really close by. We've been specializing for over 25 years in K-12 public school projects of all various sizes and scales across the entire Bay Area. We also do university work and a lot of community nonprofit projects as well. So all of this kind of informs the work that we do. We wanted to drop this slide in a little bit, like what is a long range, facilities master plan? And how is this different than like designing specific projects? We see it as really, there's 4 components that come together that then develops the guiding principles, which sort of sets a vision. And then at the end of the process kind of spits out or produces, site planning diagrams for each of the campuses, identifies a list of projects with estimates, and then also scopes and prioritization. These are all built upon understanding what are the existing facilities and how are they, what are their conditions, what are the funding opportunities, student demographics, how are the campuses either growing or shrinking or staying the same. And then probably most importantly is it's emerging with this process are the educational programs and understanding the classroom spaces and all of the other surrounding spaces. The schedule that we put together really kind of consists of doing preliminary site investigations, which then leads into community engagement. We're now here to give a board update on that process. Then over the course of the summer, we'll be looking at developing the plan, which will consist of documenting the goals that have emerged from the engagement process, developing the site plans and starting to have projects that begin to emerge, and then begin to look at some of the cost studies. After that, we're going to circle back with the constituent groups to demonstrate, illustrate and show to them how what we've heard through the outreach process is starting to emerge with real world ideas and concepts for each of the campuses. And then it's about October, November, but that part's a little squishy as far as they're sort of finalizing and documenting the master plan, and then coming back to the board at the end to present is what our preliminary understanding is. And of course, this is in some degrees a little bit fungible and adjustable depending on the overall goals of the process. So starting with kind of the site investigations, I put this slide together because when we got hired and started this process, my first thought was, wow, you've got a lot of nice buildings on your campuses and you've been doing a lot of great things. Why would we be embarking on this endeavor? And as we started walking the campuses with the principals and really understanding the sites, we started to see, a lot of unique things like the T-wing, for example, at Carlmont, or how you walk the road on the back of the campus, or some of the classrooms that are incredibly small and in some ways really outdated. So we put these slides here to illustrate just some of the analysis, and found it interesting to look at what has been, you've done 2 bonds over the last approximately, and I'm using round numbers, like 20 years or so, and wanted to highlight in this bright yellow the what I'm calling the major projects that were done over the process. We've also highlighted in this lime green color classrooms that are at about 850 square feet or less. So you're starting to trend into the small, it begins to, the classrooms start to look like this one on the bottom left, where they become quite limited on how teachers can utilize them. And you start to see that a lot of the impacts of the work over the last, 15, 20 years is really kind of around the periphery, and it relates to a lot of new buildings and a lot of new specialized spaces. This being Sequoia with the gym, renovation of Carrington Hall and some of the other spaces. And then at Woodside, the theater, the gym, the wing that's down by the tennis courts, the wing that's over by the football field as well, with, the campus core really being left in many ways untouched. Obviously, there's some strategic and pinpoint work that's been done, like with the culinary arts and some of the food service, but rather, by far and large, there's a lot of space that still needs, a fair amount of attention. So we put this table together, and I'll walk you through it. Sort of looking at how the spaces have developed. First column is the total number of classrooms that we were able to count up, number of portables, and then out of that 458 number is looking at, I'm going to look on that screen because I don't have my glasses on, is that the yellow column identifies out of the 458 spaces, 345 of them, and we're calling in air quotes here, sort of original classrooms. So these are the ones that have either had a lighter touch or have had no touch. And then out of that 345, about 156 classrooms are at 850 or less. Now, there's no hard, fast law that says if you have a classroom that's 850 square feet, you can't use it, or there's, it's inherently wrong. But when you think about it, what teachers do in these spaces day in and day out, the facilities either is going to enhance and support their ability to teach kids with the latest of teaching styles and the way that they're now co-teaching within your district and doing project-based learning. And when you start to get into these smaller confined spaces, it just becomes a lot harder for them to do it. And so what you look at is you got about 75% of your total classrooms, we're calling sort of the original, grouping, and about a third of those in total would be those undersized rooms. And so, well, there we go. We've highlighted the numbers. What I put this slide together to think about, and we're still, and I'll talk about the engagement process in a minute, but from our observations, one of the challenges that we're going to face as we go through this process, as we look at all of your classrooms, is there's sort of renovation and replacement, and we're not going to be able to, replace everything per se. There's a strong chance there's a lot that can be replaced. And then also sort of the renovation component. And all of the spaces that are existing will need some form of seismic improvements. For example, you've got these long glass windows as evidenced by this picture from Menlo Atherton. We'll need some seismic restraint. We've got significant ADA issues, obviously at Carlmont, but also Woodside High School, and getting into the classrooms, there's a lot of spaces that have some ADA and accessibility issues. And the thing that we heard about, and I'll talk about in a minute through the engagement process, is HVAC, air quality. And I found this interesting that right above the iconic entrance to Sequoia High School, we've got a fan that's in the window. I think it says kind of what one of the primary issues are. So we went through this engagement process, working together with the districts and all of the school sites, and all of the principals and the staff have just been absolutely tremendous. We went through and worked in layers with each of the campuses. So the first thing that we did was we formed a focus group. And this would be the closely held, we can talk about all kinds of things at each site. And that focus group consisted of administrators, so it was principal and assistant AVPs, a select group of faculty. Every group had probably 3 or 4 parents. And my favorite were every group had at least 3 to 4 students that were participating in as well. And it was really great to have that level of input where we're not just hearing from just one constituency. And the students really carried the day, I'm going to say. We were blown away with some of the ideas and the enthusiasm and input that we had. And then from there, we're in the process of engaging in what we're calling all faculty workshops, which we've been doing on Zoom. Attendance has been not as heavy as we would like, but we're still getting a fair amount of participation. And then we're going to be engaging with sort of a parent workshop. Both of the faculty and the parent workshops have been tailored to operate on Zoom in a virtual environment. But the good news is that so far, and this is in progress, we've engaged with we actually had, what's not on this list is, where is it? We had the Carlmont faculty meeting this afternoon, and we had a good, I think we had at least 15 to almost 18, 20 people attend that one. So we're well over 100 people that we've engaged so far in the last month. We led them through a whole bunch of interactive exercises, where they're generating the ideas and then voting and prioritizing things. We had them discuss topics to focus them kind of around 8 themes. One was sort of academic programs, kind of thinking of the classroom, student life, which is really kind of everything that's outside the classroom, but about, how the kids and the faculty are living and operating on the school campus. And then, a lot of your typical things, science and the arts, athletics, infrastructure and technology, school safety was a big one. And then sustainability was this sort of undercurrent, this sort of, thread that linked through all of them. And out of this process has begun to emerge, and we're at a point where we're getting very specific with some of the campuses, but there's these broader themes that are starting to look like projects at all of the campuses. It sort of fell into these 4 buckets. And one is the educational programs, and that's looking at what should our classrooms that are in that original category, if you will, how should they operate? What should they look like? What are the components, if they're going to be replaced or renovated, to have teachers and students be successful? And we talked about movable furniture. We talked about larger classrooms where appropriate. We talked about creating flexible breakout spaces. The students were wildly enthusiastic about having meeting spaces and other areas where they can do work, and not just sort of focused in a desk corral chair, sort of facing forward as, in one space. We talked about how these spaces can also enhance collaboration amongst faculty and then also with students. We then talked about this concept of a student union, which is a bold statement for a high school campus because student unions are found on college campuses. And the components that we talked about really were students overwhelmingly want a place where they can go to that is it's not necessarily assignable. Like, in other words, it's like the multi-purpose room space, but it's a little more flexible than that, and it's a little more open than that. And there's also a study space where they, maybe they go meet with their friends and then they have lunch, and then from there they can go off and then, hey, let's go work on our project in the space right next to it. And then working around that social hub and sort of, study hub are student support services. We heard overwhelming feedback from all 4 major campuses of the need to improve and create better spaces for counseling, health, psychology, all of the functions that support students outside of the classroom need more space and need to be in spaces where they can work better and work more efficiently and effectively to support the students on their campuses. There was talk about outdoor space and improvements and sort of this indoor-outdoor connection. We talked about sustainability and that maybe we think about HVAC as something that is comprehensively thought of. So it's not just let's put air conditioning in all the rooms and walk away, but really like these great students that spoke here a minute ago about having a sustainable district is, do we think about, is there a solar component that plugs into this, natural ventilation, good daylighting? Like, how do we make classroom environments be as sustainable as possible? And then the 4th bucket was access. And this was a little bit of a catch-all, everything from ADA accessibility to solving traffic patterns, like we were talking about it today with Carlmont Principal Gay, parking and drop off and how students then walk onto the campus, or at Menlo Atherton with Carl about how the students are at the Oak I always call it the north entrance. I don't know the name of the street, but how the faculty are driving in and the kids are walking out, that those are some serious problems to address. In this other, in the classrooms, in the academic programs was also sort of, every site talked about PE. Accessibility to some of the stadiums and others, kind of specific, site-specific PE support functions. So these are, we did this list kind of almost specifically to get for tonight and hopefully to aid in discussion here. And these are looking at things district-wide. So we're not yet to a point where we're listing sort of pinpointed and precise projects for each site yet, but the themes are starting to look like projects. So for example, at a district-wide level, because we're moving so quickly, number one, sort of replace undersized classrooms with two-story buildings. There's a tremendous amount of opportunity to take advantage of your existing space in a more efficient and functional way. Either renovate key buildings, for example, the main building at Sequoia High School. Other buildings might fall into this category as well. There will be a list of PE and athletic projects that will emerge that are site-specific to each of the campuses. This concept of a new student union, which is completely, it's highly flexible in its size and shape and scale and what it can become. And then the last grouping is really the HVAC, improvements to outdoor space, exploring solar and energy saving projects, and then addressing safety issues at each of the campuses. I put this here with thinking of the two main major themes that were emerging through this process. Is looking at, sort of like, well, what might we be thinking about cost? It's really premature, I think, as of today to be getting to this, but we're getting closer as we continue to move through this process. And then lastly, next steps. So where do we go from here? There's last little bits of community engagement that we're wrapping up. Some of it will be because the school year is drawing to a close. So there will be a little bit that we will engage with as soon as they're back. For example, I've only been focusing so far on the major sites. There's a fair amount of other campuses that you have and other programs. We will be working with the district staff to meet with those at the very first of the year and target, not first of the year, the first of the school year, and then work through with them sort of some of their specific, needs. But, given the size and heft and scale of your campuses, the four, comprehensive high schools are, getting sort of in some ways the most need. We're in the process, it's ongoing, of doing some detailed site investigations that we've been overlapping with the engagement process. And then we're refining the project list to come up with specific campus project descriptions for each campus, and then doing some site planning concepts and then cost modeling. Again, this is all sort of fluid over the course of the summer. And then when we return in August, September, would be then presenting these concepts through the community engagement process, and then developing and prioritizing, phasing, because I don't know where we're going to land now, because there's a lot of balls in the air as far as outreach, campus needs, vision, goals, and expectations, available funding. But in my experience in doing this in the past, the funding always outstrips the need, no matter how much funding you get or how much, funding is ultimately available. And then at the end of this process would then be to prepare the final report and then wrap up. So I think with that, I'm going to turn it back.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
For your presentation. I'm sure the board has comments and questions. Chris?
Like the report. It's very helpful to us. I've got a number of questions. I think I had 6 to begin with, but you answered several on the way. First, help me with the timing of the decision where we will need, some of this may go to Crystal as well, where we will need some financial information to approve a bond resolution that's far in advance of the final facilities master plan. How do you think, I didn't see on the timeline where you'll actually have estimates of cost.
Correct. Do you want to jump in? Our next step in this process is, as I was saying, is to develop a specific, we're just coming out of the engagement process, like within just this week. And these themes have just been emerging within the last week or two. So for us, I think to move on a very fast track scheduled process would be looking at a specific sort of pinpoint list of projects, which would, and then look at that with some site plans, because we want to make sure graphically that it starts to take shape. And then the budgeting process would be at a preliminary level. But we would be looking to complete that probably, well, into the summer.
Okay, so it's going to be tight, I guess, with those numbers and the bond resolution, correct?
It is going to be, it's going to be tight. Where I would just caution us is, just as with our previous facilities master plan, the estimated costs in the facilities master plan, by the time you come to the time of design and construction, obviously there is inflation and so forth. So as we narrow down a project list for the ballot, which we do have to design and come up with, which tends to be broad, I think we will be able to create a range as we start to see these themes come out on estimated cost, on, like if student unions were on there, we can estimate approximately.
I guess a driver for me, expecting that we'll face the decision about the resolution, is wanting to make sure we have a good enough sense of what the costs are going to be and the needs, that sort of thing.
Yes, and then at the June 8th board meeting, we'll be bringing the rest of the bond team, including legal counsel, to talk about the resolution process and what is needed on that as well.
Okay, a few other things. The scope of the project looks like it doesn't include any additional classrooms. That's an assumption we have, that we're sufficient? I didn't see anything on additional classrooms.
That's correct.
But I would say you would gain potential additional classrooms by going up at some of our sites
Yeah,
and relocating.
I think the plan would be, is not to, we will be able to increase classrooms where appropriate. However, I don't think we have planned yet to, have hugely significant increases in classroom quantities on any of the sites.
And I think we have the demographic information to support that, but I guess I want to feel confident in that.
Yeah, and that demographic study is what drove us, to kind of take that planning approach.
Okay. Second to last question, the scope of the project, so far as focusing on the comprehensive schools, and you mentioned going on to the small schools, there are other properties such as Green Street and the San Carlos property where I don't think the district currently has a plan. Is that within the scope of this project? How do we think of that? It seems to me that we'll want to consider that as a possibility for use of bond funds.
And so we would design flexibility in the language and the project list to allow us to address those areas if we so desire to. We will be looking at them as far as the facility master plan in August and September.
And so the board's opportunity to engage in those comes in August, you're saying. And similarly, there's nothing, of course, on workforce housing, which the board has not yet had a conversation on, but there may be other projects like that that I didn't see in year's scope of work, but.
So what we have found out, and we can have further discussion about that at the June 8th meeting when we have legal here. The initial conversation that has been had is that you are not able to use bond funds to create workforce housing.
Okay. I've heard otherwise, but that's fine. Final thing is, last time around, I think school board members were invited to these community input sessions. And I'd emphasize for us, it was primarily for the value of listening and not making our voices heard at those. I haven't seen that happen, but wonder whether it could for the final community input. Or I guess I'd encourage that to happen. I know I found that very valuable to hear the testimony from individuals.
Absolutely. And when we regroup in August, to regroup with the study sessions, we can invite board members.
Great.
Thank you. It's really great to see this work going forward and nicely done.
Thank you.
Ellen?
So as usual, given the opportunity, Chris hit on the majority of the items that I had on my list. I would, with the overall schedule, I would want to reemphasize that I believe the timeline for board commitment to move forward with a bond is fairly early August. So
August 12th, the resolution has by August 12th.
So, yeah, very much. Hopefully, we will have enough of a preliminary priority list and a large ballpark estimated kind of cost to enable us to make that determination with confidence. So I think that it definitely sounds like we are moving in that direction, and we are cognizant of that, and I appreciate it. I was glad for the point of workforce housing to be brought into the conversation and to definitely know, make sure we know what's going on. I also did want to tie in the comments we heard earlier from the Student-Led Sustainability Committee and tie that also to comments we heard at our last board meeting from another group of students also involved in sustainability work who were advocating very strongly for a lot of solar implementation around the district. And my strong preference is that representatives of these student groups definitely be included in our conversations. They are, as we could tell from the presentation this evening, they are bringing a lot of deep thought and commitment and research, as well as referencing really meaningful and helpful resources that we can call on for that part of the work. And I do believe we want to honor that effort and that input on their part to make sure that it's an active part of the planning we do with this major commitment of work for the district's facilities.
That's a great idea. I would love to do that.
Rich?
So first one, just like big picture for maybe those just tuning in for the first time. We're working on a parallel path where we have our polling legal bond coming at our next meeting, and then we have the design, kind of two parallel paths that are going to come together so that if we do choose to go forward with a bond authorization on a ballot, we choose an amount thoughtfully and that we spend it wisely. Enrollment, you guys asked about enrollment. Dr. Williams asked about enrollment at the last meeting. I'm still very interested in seeing enrollment by site and information about transfers between the sites. I think that will help inform looking at these questions, and would really like to see it well in advance of when we're making site level decisions. And then Crystal, you mentioned that August 12 is a deadline, but I think our last meeting before that is August 3. So that's our deadline, is the August 3 meeting. You good? We have to, because I think you have to do it at a regular board meeting. Is that right? And our last regular board meeting before August 12 is August 3. So that's our real deadline. Just that's the date we're working to, is August 3. And then I really appreciated the list of all the different areas of focus. Just to highlight a few things. HVAC, I got another email the last day or two from teachers about the heat in the classroom, and that they can't. We've heard from teachers and students in past years. So just echoing back what I'm sure you heard a whole bunch of times during the sustainability, we've heard that from students today. I saw that was one of the main bullets on your slide. That's great. That you talked about open spaces. I think it's exciting that if we are taking one story and making two-story, that opens up space that could be used creatively, and outdoor space can offer a lot of great opportunities on campus. I know I've seen we've done on other sites with outdoor space that's been super effective. excited to see what, if anything, you come up with for the sites here. And then a big thing we've talked a lot about is mental health, student wellness, faculty wellness, and we actually are looking at a building that might really be focused in that area. Heard a quote a long time ago that, we design our buildings and the buildings shape our lives. And I think that if we're able to do something in that area that helps with student mental health, and if there's a way that it can also work for the teachers and everyone on the school site, I think that'd be a great thing. And something I hadn't thought of before you brought it up, but to the extent we can do something with that, I think it'd be great.
You took my comments. Saves time. right?
Sorry.
The heat. Well, he took my comments, the heat in the classroom. And also, I think the last time we did a bond, we weren't thinking enough about our mental health staff and the spaces that they need. And now everybody understands that the social emotional is tied to academic success. And so I just hope that we're spending extra time with our mental health staff to look at their spaces and see what they need. Shanice, did you have anything?
Trustee Jim, what did you say exactly? I think it was the last word you said, something you were happy it was on there and I couldn't hear you over here.
I don't remember my exact words, but I was talking about the student center and that I think that ties in with mental health goals, and potentially there could be things also built in that work towards employee mental health as well. But, again, what I said was that we design our buildings, or Brent designs our buildings, and then the buildings shape our lives. And that if there's a way to make the spaces to help people be in a better mental space because they're in a physical space, that's what I was trying to say.
Thank you. I'm glad you said that. For some reason, I can't always hear on this end, but thank you for that. I was going to actually say maybe, I know I've been talking a lot with folks around figuring out what it is our community wants, what our students want around mental health. I know we talked about mental wellness, like different names, and branding is really important to that. Branding that really works for our students, not for the adults, but for the student. And if they've spoken, that student union is kind of that place, that hub that feels that mental health, then maybe we need to follow the lead of the student, use language that works for them. So I'm happy that I was just pleasantly surprised that student unions came up, because I started Googling to see if any high schools has any student unions. And I know there's one that does in California so far. So I'm excited about that. I think the other thing that I wanted to go back to, and thank you to Trustee Thompson for saying this, is looking at the Green Street. It is portables. Can you hear me now? Okay. Green Street particularly. And the reason why I'm bringing that up, and I'm looking at Bonnie because I know you supervise special education services. And those are individuals that are in a small classroom. Some of them have medical needs. And for that not to be on this list is a little concerning to me. Not necessarily the San Carlos site, because nobody's there. But this one, there are kids there. And I wonder about that. I wonder about their health there. And I don't hear a lot about the Green Street site. I get a little concerned that we don't hear a lot about the Green Street site. So I just want to make sure that this is not a secondhand thought, that it's a firsthand thought. And we don't want anyone to feel slighted. And we can't serve if we don't know what the needs are. And so without them in the plan, this is an incomplete plan to me. So I wanted to put that out there. The last thing is the parent community workshops. We're having more, right? Oh, okay. All right. That's all. Thank you.
Just a comment about Green Street. I don't know if it's adequate or not, but a previous superintendent, Jim Leonidas, actually spent a lot of money revamping that site, as far as I remember. And again,
He
maybe
might have. I know I've been there.
and maybe
in the-
it's not
we've
adequate,
Been there in the last 10 years. It's still portables.
yeah.
It is still it's small classrooms, I believe. I think because I don't know, and because we don't know. I think it should be part of the plan.
Okay, we do have a speaker from our Zoom audience, Edith Salvatore.
I think Trustee Ginn made the same comments that I wanted to make, just echoing the what we hear from teachers and students every August and September and every May and June, that it is functionally too hot in many classrooms to get any substantive work done. I believe it was 92 degrees in Menlo Atherton classrooms, some of them at 3:45 yesterday. I anticipate it was in the high 80s to 90s in some of those rooms upstairs at Sequoia yesterday. So we really are excited that HVAC, both short-term and long-term, could be part of this plan and part of a bond potentially, and that we understand that both for the health of our world, our planet, but also for the health of the district's budget, we also hope that we can tie that HVAC plan to long-term energy sustainability. Thank you.
Thank you. Public comment? Come on. Yeah, you can go.
I just feel like as a maintenance worker and working alongside some of the people who take care of the HVAC, that I need to at least defend Gary, who is our fantastic HVAC guy. He's working with antiquated systems, but he's probably, him and Luis, one of our new hires, are brilliant with HVAC and are probably some of the most overworked people in the district. So they're doing their best. So I just felt like I needed to throw just that little tidbit in with the discussion, that they are very much looking forward to better equipment also, and they can handle it.
Thank you for your comment. Sure. Go ahead, Ellen.
Yeah, I wanted to thank Trustee Stevenson for putting some focus on Green Street, and it reminded me, is there any examination and consideration of the adult school facility that's being undertaken as part of this?
We will also be looking at the adult school, and then can also revisit the survey that we did to the public and the list of types of projects that the people we surveyed were interested in seeing, and trying to tie those together.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions from the board? Nope. Thank you very much for the presentation. We are now on item 15, action item, approval of the contract with the Parent Venture for implementation of the Parent Education Series. And just a note to the board, my board colleagues, I am on this board, so I have to recuse myself from the vote.
That's why it wasn't on consent.
Pardon me?
So absent any, I'm willing to move to, and does anyone have any discussion on this item?
I'm happy to second.
Sure.
Yeah.
My question is, I know I go to a lot of their webinars and things of that sort, so I have no problem with the quality of their work. But do we ever have them come and present and how this connects to our goals before we approve a contract? I just want to know, like, what's the typical process? I know maybe Carrie, you can help me with this because I'm not for
I mean,
sure.
all of our contracts, as we approve most of our
But
contracts through consent.
particularly- But particularly this one, it is part of our parent education program. It is the parent education
Mhm.
program. I just want to put that out there. And it substitutes kind of like our parent coordinator. So I'm wondering, do we ever have them come and present and talk about their outcomes or any of that?
We have in the past, and she would love to present. So if you would like that as an agenda item.
I'll say it at the end.
Yeah.
But I have no problem with the contract, but I've just been thinking about learning more about
What they do and
what
how they
we're-
select.
and what we're funding, right?
Sure.
I think, do we not also have visibility on the on the series, right? I get the emails for that. So we see every one of our programs.
Workshop, but like from a board perspective, I want to know the impact is
Mhm.
kind of what I was thinking. Yeah, but I'm all for it.
Yeah, she would be very happy to present, and
I
she
mean,
hasn't
The other
presented.
would be
several
if you
years.
reached out to her, I'm sure she'd have a conversation with you as well. If you want it to be a formal presentation or if you wanted a conversation, there's
Yeah,
two ways to go.
I think a formal presentation because it is a decent contract and
And she does have the data because she tracks every
has data.
parent and community member that attends.
Yeah, and when we're thinking about our goals, we also need to be thinking about our parents. And not because they're so engaged like elementary school kids, but there still is this parallel process and it would be nice to know what that is, what the impact
Yeah,
is.
and big focus of hers has been mental health, wellness, substance abuse. That's why I'm on the board. Think the items that are so passionate, I'm so passionate about personally, and I feel parents need help or just raising adolescents. Parents are sometimes very challenged. So, but yeah, I would love a presentation from her.
So I second the motion.
Okay, so who did the motion?
I think I moved to approve and Shawnee seconded.
Okay,
Sorry, Chris.
all right. So all in favor?
Sorry,
Aye.
Oops, sorry.
you can't vote.
I can't. I'm abstaining. That's why I have to abstain. Okay. Okay, next item. 15.2, approval of contract with Health Connected for sexual health education services.
Good evening, President Dubois, Vice President Ginn, Superintendent Williams, and members of the board. This is an item that was originally on our consent agenda, but we also moved into action because we wanted to recognize student trustee Stid on this one. I remember back in my, if we can give her a hand, thank you, Carlos. Back, I think it was my first board meeting. It may have even been the one where I was introduced, just watching you get up to the microphone and speaking your voice and raising all of the student voices around sexual health, sexual awareness, sexual assault, and making sure that students are educated on these issues and not just educated on these issues when they have it in grade 9, but in a continuing way throughout their high school years. It really spoke to me. I know it spoke to members of this board. And so it's been something that we've been looking into with our contracts. And specifically, we do have an ongoing contract with Health Connected, who has traditionally done the sexual health classes in grades 9 and 10. And so for the 2022-2023 school year, we are also contracting their services to extend to Teen Talk refresher courses for grades 11 and 12. And we're going to have 10 of those. And again, it's because of the voice that you lifted of students and the importance of keeping that going throughout high school. So thank you for that. And thus the contract is in action because we wanted to say thank you. Thank you.
Sure.
This contract is really important as a person who has a child going into high school, going into college. Sorry, they're out of high school almost. But what I hear at the college level, now that I have my son there, there's so much sexual assault and questionable situations are happening. And I'm so glad that we're talking about it so much earlier than just 1 or 2 times, but really putting that out there for the safety and the health of all young people. And so I'm so excited that you brought the voice. So thank you.
Any other, Alan?
This is something that, comes up on an annual basis for renewal, and certainly on that basis, I had nothing but the greatest of positive feelings and excitement to go ahead and approve it. But Dr. Chacon, thank you very much for making that connection and explaining how the program is actually being amplified next year and tying it in response to a stated need that was brought to our attention by Isabel. And for that, it is all the more exciting for me to be able to vote on this.
Okay. Do I have a
And
motion?
if there's no other.
So
comments,
moved.
I'll second then.
Okay, thank you for that. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Okay, next item, 15.3, adoption of resolution number 1715 through 1722, electing cease to be subject to the Public Employees Medical and Hospital Care Act with respect to a recognized employee organization. Mouthful.
Grab all my notes just in case. I will be presenting the next three items. There are three parts, part one, part two, part three, with some fellow colleagues, Christian Poyster, our ASME Vice President, and then Edith Salvatore, who is on the panelist. So I will introduce the item, I'm going to read the entire background for the first item, which has been copy and pasted for the next three, and then allow my co-presenters to also speak to each of these items. Really tiny writing. I should have made it bigger. Okay. In 2019, the Joint Benefits Committee was concerned about rapidly escalated health coverage costs from CalPERS and recommended that a request for proposal be issued to explore alternatives to CalPERS, where we purchase our health benefits. The scope of the RFP was only medical benefits, not retirement or long-term disability coverage. The results were presented to the Board of Trustees on August 19th, 2020. That was a long time ago. The COVID-19 pandemic had prevented necessary modifications to collective bargaining agreements, so the focus of the board's discussion was health benefits for management, confidential, and unrepresented employees. At that meeting, the board provided the direction to find a solution that would work for all employees and retirees. In spring 2021, the RFP was reissued and two finalists were identified: San Mateo County Schools Insurance Group, also known as SMITSIG, and Self-Insurance Schools of California, also known as SISC. However, given the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, the Joint Benefits Committee decided to pause the review until fall of 2021. In fall of 2021, the Joint Benefits Committee reconvened and selected SISC as the best alternative to CalPERS. SISC's proposal demonstrated its ability to provide comparable plans to all employees. Employee communication, however, was identified as crucial. An animated explainer video was sent to all employees, and the webinars were planned for both employees and retirees on what to expect. We've done a series of those over the past several months. In spring 2022, changes were made to collective bargaining agreements to permit the shift from CalPERS to SISC, and the webinars were held. Additional retiree webinars are also in process of being scheduled and communicated. So what is the impact of this switch? My favorite part. Most employees choose Kaiser Permanente coverage, 250 employees in total. Charges from SISC to the district for the Kaiser coverage will be the same as the rates would have been with CalPERS. CalPERS has not yet provided Kaiser rates for 2023, but Kaiser rules require matching these rates. Current Kaiser rates from CalPERS average about $1,600 per employee per month. Anthem Blue Cross HMO is the second most chosen option for our employees, with 173 employees in total. Charges from SISC to the district for Anthem coverage will be about just under $1,900 on average per employee per month. If the district were to stay with CalPERS, charges from CalPERS to the district for Anthem Blue Cross coverage are projected to be about $2,500 on average per employee per month. Both SISC and CalPERS offer a comparable Anthem Blue Cross HMO plan. The annual savings to the district from the shift to SISC for Anthem Blue Cross is over $2.3 million. A similar analysis was applied to all CalPERS plans. In total, the shift to SISC for active employees will result in changes in charges from SISC that are over $2.5 million lower than charges from CalPERS. For our retirees, charges from SISC are projected to be $178,000 more than charges from CalPERS, as reflected in the board resolution pertaining to the district's retiree minimum also known as the minimum contribution. That's part 3 we will talk about. The district will increase its contribution to the cost of retiree benefits so that retirees do not experience an increase in costs under the description of minimum contribution. So before I turn it over to my colleagues to speak about the process, when we as an organization started this journey of exploration of exiting CalPERS, it was always the board's direction, right, to do no harm. How do we exit CalPERS and choose a provider with plans that meet the same level, if not greater, for what we currently offer our employees? And because of this benefits committee and the time and effort that they have put in, both at the committee level and at the table, we have done so. So Edith, I'll let you speak second since Chris is here. Okay, go ahead, Chris.
I realized I didn't introduce myself earlier. I'm still getting used to this public speaking thing. So my name is Chris Sequoia. I've been with the district for 7 years. I'm a carpenter and recent vice president for the AFSCME chapter. I've been a steward since my first 6 months in the district and on nearly every negotiating team. There have been talks in the past of changing medical benefits, and it always raises suspicion from employees. But how we knew that this committee was different was with having equal representation in this committee from the teachers, from the unclassified, from the district, and from AFSCME. So when we saw that everyone was going to be at the table together, it was apparent that this was a big decision. Exiting CalPERS is a huge deal. When you leave CalPERS, if you don't have a good plan set, then you're treading water and paying a lot more money for your insurance. So we took all of that into consideration when we got together in this committee. Devin Devine has been our quarterback. He's with Claremont Partners, one of the best investments that I think the committee's been able to make alongside with the board and the district. He has spearheaded everything from finding people to teaching everybody about HR. Like I could probably go work for Sonia at this point. Like I know a lot more about HR than a carpenter is supposed to know. But it felt really good to be educated, and the district spent a lot of money by letting us stop what we're doing, which will slow down production, but by bringing us into these meetings, and we got to learn a lot, which then made this possible by having our members know that it was something that we were involved in and that we were looking out for their best benefit. So altogether, this whole process has been fantastic. And we got to see the fruits of our labor with this recent vote on the negotiations, and that everyone came to an agreement that this was going to be a really good shift. So we would like to thank you guys for allowing us to be a part of this. And this is going to be a really, really good thing moving forward, both for the district and for the employees.
Thank you.
Give Edith a moment to speak.
Pardon me?
Hi, SDTA was involved from the beginning in the creation of the Joint Benefits Task Force. We did a lot to familiarize ourselves with what our benefits offerings were, what our employees' needs are, and to balance out that we could not just look for the plans or offerings that would save the district the most money, but we appreciated that the district was on board with us with both looking to save money and equal or increase the level of benefit that we're providing to employees. SCTA was also particularly concerned with that do no harm that Crystal mentioned, and ensuring that our retirees did not experience a big increase in their payments for premiums. And we appreciate that the district worked with us to find a solution that would allow us to do this together, but also protect our retirees. So we think it's a good plan for the district, for our continued financial health, and for our members for their continued actual health.
Thank you.
So just real quick before we move to further comments, part 1 is the resolutions for each unit to exit CalPERS.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. Alan?
So speaking to this first part, but intending all three, I definitely want to recognize what a historic moment this is. This has been a body of work that has been many years in coming. And there was a lot of talk back and forth that eventually led to the formation of the Benefits Committee about how the district wanted to be able to cut healthcare costs and convert that into increased salary for our staff. But by having that Benefits Committee put together the way it was, and the great work that was done there, and the combination of patience and deep research with an ongoing sense of urgency to actually get it done, kind of brought us to this point where indeed no harm was done. Many voices were included to make sure that every group from every angle we could explore it came out as well off or better in the process. And then I think, the final capstone piece that was so valuable through the negotiations that occurred this past year was to be able to formally state in our contract how those savings would be committed to translate into salary increase. And that had not only all the benefit of just the healthcare correction and the salary adjustment, but what we just heard from our union leadership of the trust and confidence built through the process, through the partnership, through everybody following through on their word and their intent. And it resulted in the first time we've had a 2-year contract settlement in the district, building confidence, building positive partnership and relations, and freeing a lot of our key resources in the district from an abundance of negotiating time to more focus on delivering benefit directly to our students. So this is, to me, has been a tremendous positive cycle. And I am thrilled to be at this point. And I thank you for the presentation and the opportunity to adopt this.
Chris?
So I simply want to underscore the high praise that Alan spoke of to the three partners in this process for being so collaborative, thoughtful, diligent, and coming out with a great final proposal for us. The one thing I'll share with you is we all have been aware of rising healthcare costs for a long time, preceding our time on the board. But the former CBO for the district turned to the current CBO, wrote a note to her saying, and you pulled it off. And actually it's Crystal and Chris and Edith. So high praise for great work. I'm very confident that, that this is good for teachers. This is good for staff. This is great for the district.
Okay, anything else? No?
Sorry, just really fast.
Yes.
As the person in the room who's been here the longest, I would have told you that this was never going to happen. And I'm so impressed and so proud to work with Crystal and the other people who helped make it so.
Thank you for that.
I'll
Rich?
just echo some of the things I've heard. Chris Thompson and I were on the committee, mostly as listening members, and appreciated seeing how everybody worked together to get this done. So thanks to everybody who got us here.
Okay, so I think I need a
I
motion
am
to,
pleased to move.
thank
adoption.
you, Ellen.
I'll second.
Thank you, Rich. And I guess we need a roll call. This is a resolution.
Student trustee Stead,
Yes.
student trustee Osuna,
Yes.
trustee Thompson.
Yes.
Trustee Stevenson,
Yes.
trustee Sarver,
Yes.
vice president Ginn,
Yes.
president Dubois.
Yes.
Motion
Motion
adopted.
passes. Congratulations.
Can we just move on the other ones, or do you
Yeah,
want to
now
talk
we're
about
on-
them some more?
Will you talk about them, please? Okay, so I'm sorry, President Dubois, would you like to introduce the
Yeah,
item?
probably should just introduce so if people listening know what we're doing. 15.4, adoption of resolution number 1724, authorizing participation in self-insured of California 3.
Yes, this resolution is to signify that the district has chosen SISC as our medical provider where we will purchase benefits from. You know, this was a culmination of sorting through, I don't know, hundreds of plans and all becoming masters of health benefits and, you know, really taking the time with staff inside the committee and outside the committee to talk about their needs. And that's really what this committee was about, to address the fears that often come with changing plans. Are you going to get to keep your same doctor? And so with that at the forefront of who we chose and why we chose, was one of the decisions on why we chose SISC. SISC is a very reputable company known throughout California. They only provide health benefits to school employees, where CalPERS provides benefits to public employees of California. So you get pooled with police, you get pooled with firefighters, and librarians. They definitely drive up those rates. And so now we are pooled with our alike, right? People that understand us and understand our industry, thus reaping the benefits of some better plans and more affordability to our district. I don't know if Edith or Chris have anything to say regarding this item.
I just have a couple facts. If you want to know more about SISC, they've been around for 40 years. They insure over 400,000 people, and one out of every 1,000 people that's insured is insured from a SISC healthcare plan. So they're a very large, very reputable company, and they have a great liaison with Lori Phillips as our go-to person that's holding our account, and we're very happy to be working with her.
Thank you. All right, any comments or questions? Or should we go right to a motion?
Actually, could I do a simple question? The resolution makes reference to bylaws, SIS bylaws, and a joint project agreement. In your review, I looked at those very quickly, and it looked like they include a clause about sort of the 3-year time when we're going to stick with this for 3 years, basically. Are there did you see anything else in those documents that?
I did not. Both Devin Devine with Claremont Partners and myself did comb through, and then also in consultation with SIS to go through, and there was nothing.
Thank you. Happy to make a motion to approve this resolution.
Thank you for that.
I'll second.
Thank you. Roll call.
Student trustee Stead,
Yes.
student trustee Osuna,
Yes.
trustee Thompson,
Yes.
trustee Stevenson, trustee Sarver,
Yes.
vice president Ginn,
Yes.
president Dubois.
Yes.
Motion adopted.
Thank you. All right, moving on to 15.5, adoption of resolution number 1725, authorizing retiree minimum contribution.
Yes, it's very important to memorialize this resolution and the retiree minimum contribution, which was really born out of the CalPERS minimum contribution, which is actually a service fee of
having retirees a part of our plan feels like a benefit. Many of the other providers roll in those service fees to the premium, so you don't see it sit outside the way that you see it within CalPERS. But this resolution and really creating this hold harmless approach for recognizing the retiree minimum contribution, I have to give credit to the unions. It was about, again, keeping with the spirit of doing no harm. The minimum contribution has gone up a few dollars every year. It is minimal. We decided on a number that would give us a little bit of buffer. And the way that this number would potentially change is, and Edith can speak a little bit more to this, is, you know, if it was brought back through the table. So this policy does, or this resolution also is in line with board policy 4354 under health and welfare benefits. And so we try to mimic that. So when the unions, whether that be AFSCME or SDTA, settle around health and benefits, then the unrepresented, according to this board policy, will also reap the benefits of that process. So that is why it's such a collaborative process. And at the table and during the benefits committee, there's always been an eye on the people who are unrepresented, whether that be management and then also our retirees.
Thank you. Anything?
I move for approval.
Okay. Thank you. Roll call.
Student trustee Stibb,
Yes.
student trustee Messina,
Yes.
trustee Thompson,
Yes.
trustee Stevenson. Trustee Stevenson?
Sorry, yes. I was saying yes in my mind. Sorry.
That was a yes. Vice President Ginn,
Yes.
President Dubois.
Yes.
Oh, trustee
Trustee
Sarver,
Sarver
my
says yes.
apologies.
Somebody? That's the first time you forgot somebody.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
President Dubois, did I
Yes,
get
so-
you? Okay.
Yes, so
All right.
motion.
Motion adopted 5-0.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
so much. Great work, everyone. Wow.
Just say something. I really appreciate this process. I know I was watching a board meeting during the pandemic when we were talking about insurance. It was the most intense conversation I had ever heard. I was like, oh my God, is that what the board does? And so this is really outstanding that this has happened. I know you've gotten a lot of emails about the retirees and all the gracious emails that you have written back. As well as Crystal and many other people who worked on this. And then also to Trustee Jen and Trustee Thompson for being on the subcommittee. And I know a lot of work. I think your first thing, Todd, was to really work on this with others and bring things to the table. So I know it was a large team working through this. So thank you to our superintendent and our associate and all the people who worked on this. So thank you.
Thank you for
Quick
those.
comment. Real quick comment. I see Devin Devine as a participant here. So Devin, thanks for all your help.
Thank you. I've learned a lot from working with you all.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Shanice, for your gracious comments. And thank you, Rich. Okay. Now on to Board of Trustees, Superintendent's comments, et cetera. Does our superintendent have any closing words? No? Okay, then I will go next. So I have one more rose. So the community of Belmont lost a mom who has been very involved in our community. Her name is Keiko Smith. If you don't know her, I can't even list all of the things that she has done for her community and for Carmont. And so she was involved with our court and community programs. She, as part of her role in District 17 PTA, the court and community schools don't have a regular PTA, so the staff in those programs didn't get staff lunches or end of year lunches. So Keiko and another community member, Lori McBride, began to support both those programs. And she got to know the teachers as well as our students. She was also involved in when we began doing work to transition Ravenswood kids to do a better job of transitioning our Ravenswood kids to our high schools. She was involved in an effort one night to be on one of our school buses to pick up parents in Ravenswood and bring them to Carmont for the 8th grade transition night. She helped to raise scholarships for kids going on the Sojourn to the Past program, and then on and on and on. When I met her, I stopped allowing her to pay for lunch. I wanted to treat her for all of her lunches because she did so much. And then at one point I figured out it wasn't just the things that I was interested in that she was doing. It was such a long list of things, so compassionate, so caring, so involved. So the community of Belmont is in mourning. There's actually a GoFundMe for her children who are college age. The ask was $15,000. It's actually raised $50,000, and that just shows how beloved she is. So I wanted to also do a rose in her memory, because public schools are also so much about our community volunteers and our passionate parents who do so much. So Keiko Smith will be very missed. I also wanted to mention that Rich and Ellen and I were at the robotics end of year event at Woodside. It was absolutely inspiring. I liked robotics going in. Leaving that event, I was sort of just on fire. I also attended the County Office of Education meeting, their last meeting, to hear their discussion of Gateway. And I am happy that they are extending that program for another year, so it'll be 2 years. And I just feel like we need to have just special care as we transition that program. I know that we're all going to visit. I have believed that the students have been in good hands with the county office. It's been a very small program, and some of our kids need that very, very small environment. So I look forward to visiting with all of you. And I think the last thing I did, and Alan was there, we attended the Jefferson Union High School District ribbon cutting of their staff housing. It was amazing to see that. And a lot of trustees from around the county were there to cheer on that school board for some amazing work. Any other comments? Shanice?
Thank you for your words around Gateway. I was at their board meeting online. I think last meeting I said something about this just doesn't feel right, and I couldn't put my word. I couldn't understand what it is that I was feeling. And it wasn't until that board meeting that I actually was able to name what it is I'm feeling. And I'm not going to say it publicly, some of the details, but specifically that some students need a more small, therapeutic, intensive environment. And the cost of that is always a concern. And if we're going to serve all kids, there should only be a small group of kids who need that type of intensity and that level of dollars that go towards them because they need it, right? I commend Trustee Hector Camacho and Chelsea Bolini for really bringing that forward and understanding the breadth of that, not just for the high school, but also the elementary. So I was very pleased to hear that it's going to be 2024, and they're actually going to do more of a needs assessment around what the needs is, not that it's definitely closing because 2024, but really taking that time to engage the community. And I think that's very important to me because when I listen to the numbers and who's in those sites, we can't call it equity because of financial. We have to really do the work and say, okay, what's the outcome of the students that we're looking for and what do they really need? I still think we have some work to do. I know Dr. Williams has taken the next year to really plan around that and think about that with the team, with student services and other folks. And, I think that is really important to have our own backup plan So I'm excited about that and glad they slowed down the train on that one. And then I went with Trustee Sarver to the Belmont River Shore State of the District. That was an awesome experience. I think getting out to our partner districts, elementary districts, is going to be really important to know kind of what the pipeline is, so that we can also claim our children, not necessarily blame the partner district. And so that was really helpful to understand who's coming into our district, what the thinking is about that, and really connecting with some of the partners beyond just the district, but also nonprofit partners. I also went to, because my child is one, Black Excellence graduation this Sunday, and it was fantastic. All our sites were there. I was so excited to see Redwood there. They had a student there. All the sites except for Tide had someone there. And it was just fantastic how the community is really supporting them. And kudos to our union for supporting that effort as well. It was a really touching experience. I also wanted to let you guys know that I went to Stanford College School of Education, had Jeffrey Canada, who started the Harlem Zone. And it, coming off this week and last week and just being tired, and I don't know about anybody else, I'm just environmentally, I'm just exhausted. And going to see him speak reminded me of why I'm here. Sometimes wellness is not just sleep and more money and all that. Sometimes it's leadership and inspiration. And so going to hear him talk about the alignment of systems, the sharing of data, training the next group of teachers and psychologists and things of that sort, starting with high school. And really doing interdisciplinary training. So some of the work that the integration piece of, as a person who has children with medical conditions, and that integration of health and education is really important. I actually left very inspired to think about our students, it made me think about Gateway. It made me think about some of our students who are high achievers, but social emotionally, they're really struggling. So it just had me thinking a lot about students and personalization as much as we can. And then I wanted to end on two notes. One is, and I've been talking to Dr. Williams and others, but as I think about all the options that we have now, making sure that bias isn't part of the process when kids are trying to figure out what they want to do after high school. And I know we have our beautiful, beautiful MOU, which I think mirrored a lot with what Jeffrey Canada talked about, the cradle to college. And I'm so excited about that. And I want to make sure that we're not assuming who does what route, who does this, that we are giving kids fundamentally all of their options and standing from a coaching stance to help them to start thinking with their families about what is appropriate for them. I really, what stood out for me when I went to EPAA, when they did, I think their sign-in day, they would say, so-and-so is still trying to decide what they want to do. And that, to me, is ultimately what high schoolers, the practice of being adults, is that adults aren't telling them at the end what to do, that we are trying to help them figure out what it is that they want to do with their families, of course, and not categorizing who goes to 4-year, who goes to 2-year, who goes to work, who goes to service, who does civic, right? And so I just, that keeps coming to mind, and I probably won't let it go. I want to make sure that we are doing that. And then the very last thing, as we think about the yellow roses, there was an incident in East Palo Alto. And as a board member, not representing the board, but because, of the title of being a leader in a district, I was called to come and speak with President Mele Latu, I think Trustee Camacho from San Mateo County Office of Ed, faith leaders went and gathered in the park where a person was ultimately shot in front of their children while, because it's a place of gathering. And as I think about violence, and I wasn't here in the 90s, but that is not our community. And I wanted to say that very loudly here. Don't categorize us. It is just symptoms of our world right now. And we claimed back our park, prayed, as well as watched our children play, asking for solutions the next day of our city council of what we can do to make things even more safe, even though that was the first and only homicide I believe we had in our community. But what I am deeply appreciative, and I'll say it publicly, to Hector Camacho, who was actually the person's teacher from Redwood. These are our kids, they're just adults. And so as much as I give roses around the country, there's some to be given here. And so, yeah, I just want to thank our partner district with Ravenswood, San Mateo County Office of Ed, and so many other people who came out to show the family, a life is a life. And so we mourn with you. So on that end of that note, thank you all.
Thank you for that. Alan?
Let me try and turn it a little bit more to the lighter side, but not to undermine any of what was just expressed. This past weekend for my family kind of brought the conclusion to the season of wonderful Sequoia Union High School District performances that we have been attending. And we went to the Hometown Days Parade in San Carlos, where we had the opportunity to see Carmont Cheer, Carmont Drumline, Sequoia Marching Band, and the Woodside Marching Band, among many other groups participating in that. And it was not only were all of them extraordinary, but the amount of community outreach and the highlighting of our students in the communities that we serve was just so wonderful to see. And they were very much appreciated as they marched. The next thing I wanted to talk a little bit about was the structure of our agenda this week. It's not all that late, approaching 8:30, but we have covered a tremendous number of items tonight. There was not that many individual items in the information and discussion and action, but there was a whole bunch more on consent. On action, the final three that we went through, we talked about what a monumental achievement that represents. But the previous two, and in combination with a lot that was in consent tonight, really represent a huge amount of work that our staff does in establishing and maintaining the partnerships that allow us to so critically amplify the services that we bring to our students. Public schools are asked to be all things to all students and all families. And there is only so much that we can do well in-house without compromising our ability to focus on the educational services that we deliver to our students. And these partnerships that are represented by the contracts that we are renewing and the new ones we're establishing at this time of the year, every year, really show how we bring together the whole village it takes to raise a child. And we have got tremendous relationships with great partners that really do round out the services that our students need to thrive. And I hope that we will continue to maintain these great working relationships and continue to seek out and bring on board additional partners that really fill other needs and move us forward. It's a way that allows this public school system to be more than just what we can be with the great staff we have on board. And it's so critical. The last very brief thing I want to mention on future addenda items. I know that at our last review of the board calendar that we approved on consent tonight, we talked about moving our first August meeting from the 10th to the 3rd in order to avoid the first day of school, which I think is great sense. I would just kind of throw out for consideration that if we find as we're moving through the summer that the August 3rd meeting is really going to be a great challenge for that facilities presentation, and it would make all the difference in the world to our ability to really work on that with confidence, we might consider moving it back to the 10th. But I'm not making a recommendation about that. I'm just kind of throwing it out for consideration as logistics as we get close, because we did raise concerns about how tight that schedule is going to be, and the 10th would be before the deadline of the 12th. So I hope that that remains open as a consideration for the right answer as we get closer.
Thank you. Chris?
I wonder if the suggestion might be to our colleagues that we hold both Wednesdays, which might give us more flexibility to decide that issue. Mike, do you want to?
I just said good idea.
I have two closing comments that might be categorized in the quote student voice, kind of a cold term in many ways, but not what I wanted to speak to. The first is turning to our two student trustees and say thank you for the comments you made and the thoughts you shared with us about how our nation addresses gun violence. I guess I'm hopeful that voices like yours and ours lead to change in our nation. But I think probably the greatest hope all of us have is listening to you and hoping that your generation, frankly, does a better job of it than we've done. And I think when we hear you speak, we get a great sense of that hope. The other student voice I wanted to speak about was we heard from the students on sustainability. I want to turn to my two colleagues and thank them for their service, Carrie and Alan, for your service on those committees. That group suggested a variety of actions that the board might take or the district might take that include the notes I wrote down were a web page, a resolution, helping going after the Green Ribbons Award program. If my colleagues agree, I'd be interested in a response from the superintendent at some point on what might be the things that we could pursue.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you for that. Rich?
So I have a one additional data request, Dr. Williams. I always asking, I like information. It's in response to Edith's comment talking about the increase in administrative staff. And I learned a new term, thanks to Dr. Williams this week, called R2. And I'd be interested to understand what the R2 is for our district versus the other Union High School districts in the county, so we can understand more about R2. I hadn't heard about that term before this week. I'm interested to learn more about it. I don't know if anybody else
Yeah, we need a couple other
shares
people to
an
say
interest
yes.
in learning about R2.
Got it.
I heard about that doing the Masters in Governments, and there is a ratio. So it would be nice. And I know that I was interested in that.
Okay, so I see 3 board members saying yes to that request. So
Okay, and then my second would be, I request that we have a discussion item about Gateway and Hillcrest after we visit, so that we can, in a Brown Act compliant way, talk about our experiences with each other. And I'll just throw out a possible thought of something that I will talk about is, well, I'm usually not liking resolutions. This may be a case where it would be helpful for our board to make a resolution that we send to the San Mateo County Office of Education Board with, if we have a shared agreement on what we would want to say, so we could say it as a collective to them and something to discuss after we visit. So my request is a discussion item about Gateway and Hillcrest after our visit.
Okay, thank you. And is there, do we have yeses on that?
I say a
Yes.
Okay, there's yeses on that. Okay, so I think that is it. Can I have a motion to adjourn? Very proud of you guys. 8:30. This is we are trying to, the staff wellness. It's not for me. I like to stay till 10 because if I go home too early, I will do the dishes because my husband does them at 10:30. He's always.
I move adjournment so there's
Dishes everywhere, and I only live with him.
Harry, you can stay. in
I do. I stay and do more. That's why I stay and I do more work. So do I have a motion? And please don't tell my husband that I said this in a public meeting. Okay, thank you for the motion and a second. Pardon me?
So you do have resolutions to sign.
I know. So I have okay, I think we're agreed to adjourn. Thank you. Good night, everyone.
Good night.